Podcasting with Ceri Jones.
Hi guys, and welcome to this week's podcast. Well, I hope you've all had a successful week, but for some, this hot weather has put restrictions again on some of the rivers of South Wales anyway here because of the temperature and water levels. So it's been on hold for some of us, but I've had a great couple of days on my local lake, Llanfawr, where we did the podcast last week, fishing for resident rainbows. And it's good that, with the lake fishing in this hot weather, at least you got the depths, and the fish can go in the cooler water. So there's no restrictions here in the lakes for us. And I want to start by thanking and welcoming my new patrons who joined this week. And I really appreciate the support of the channel. Lots more planned as well for the next couple of weeks. And those who haven't joined yet, please consider becoming a Patreon. We'll get access to over 90 past episodes, and weekly podcasts, bonus content, photographs behind the scenes to each episode, and other exclusive content and competitions each month. Before I go on to this week's guest, I just want to say I will be in Ireland now fishing for the Ferox throughout September. Even though I've got some bookings lined up for the Ferox days, I have a few dates available. If anybody wants to join me and experience some outstanding fishing for these amazing specimen fish, give us a shout. This week's guest actually lives only a few miles away, and we've never met up until this week. And it's down to he's a river fisherman, but I'm a lake fisherman. And it wasn't long after chatting to him I noticed that he's a very modest angler. He's achieved so much, with 10 international caps representing Wales and the Rivers International scene. Well, one of the main reasons I wanted to chat to him this week was you might have seen his face in the press all across social media regarding his catch of this magnificent brown where he caught on the River Don or fishing the Rivers International in Scotland. He goes to tell us of exactly what happened that day and how he landed it, which is quite a story. He goes on to say how it all started for him and some of the methods and flies which have brought him success. And he also shares another passion which we both share, and that's photography. So welcome to my chat with Ceri Bromwell.
Well, it's good to finally meet, because you're not too far away from me, do you?
No, I'm only in Ponty.
Are you actually from Ponty?
No, Gilvercock I'm originally from.
Oh, it's even closer to me, really,
Is
isn't
it?
it? Gilver. Porth.
Porth.
Just over the top there,
Yeah. Not far away, stone throw.
I know. So this, where we are now, is your local river, I guess, is it?
Now it is the Rhondda and the Taff. That's mostly where I'm fishing.
So this is Ennisable where we are now, yeah?
Just above Ponty, but yeah. Ennisable is up further. This is just outside Ponty.
It was nice to actually, because before we come here, we went to this other spot and we did do the chat, and it was too near the A470. But I was surprised how clean it was,
Oh, the Taff is. I think the big floods have washed most of the rubbish down into the bay.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, he's got a boat in Cardiff Bay, and the stuff accumulates through the floods down there. And it was a bad thing, but it also had a good thing to it because it
Send
did
all the
clear.
rubbish down to Cardiff.
And in the bay itself, and with the yacht clubs, they clean it all out and fill skips.
Do they?
So it all goes back into recycled or whatever they have to do or burn it. And that I know Cardiff Yacht Club do a lot of that because where it comes into off the Taff, it kind of accumulates around the boats and then they clear it all up. So
yeah. Do you know what? I don't know if it's because of social media or the Taff has always been good. But you see, so many good fish coming from the Taff now. Has it always been like that, do you think?
Since I've been, yeah. And the more I've learned, and about the river and found these little spots, that they've always been here. always been here. And I think social media, like you just said, it kind of like opened our eyes a bit, because a lot of, you know, the older anglers, they won't tell you nothing, do they?
No.
And I think you've got a younger generation coming up who's brought up with social media and sharing the stories and share this. I think it's just, it opened up, you know, saying, oh, there's good fish on the Taff, there's good fish on the Rhondda, there's good fish everywhere. But years ago, they'd keep you close to heart, wouldn't they?
Yeah, you talk about good fish. There's one fish I want to talk to you about now. And this is what brought you some fame now, hasn't it? You're a pin-up guy,
I'm a Taff pin-up boy.
Tell me what happened then. Tell me the story with this big fish you had up in the Don, isn't it?
Yeah, River Don in Scotland in the International. It was my first peg, C3, and I was under a bridge and the weather was boiling and the river was really low, and all the ranunculus beds, you could see the weed all through the river.
It's a big river?
Yeah, it's massive.
It's nothing like here.
Oh no, this is a brook compared to the Don. It's wide and it looks like you can wade there, but you get up above your knees and it'll take you off your feet. The force of the water is incredible.
You fished it before?
Yeah, I fished it in the International in, I'm not sure if it was 2016 or something like that. And yeah, 2016. I'm not sure if we had silver then, I'm not sure. I can't remember. But it was a different river this time because it was so low. There was water in it last time.
Right.
And like all the methods, we were fishing a French leader, you know, named spiders, clink and dink. And for us, the spiders were working well, so we were using them above the French leader. We used them on the French leader, but putting the spiders in the droppers. And in amongst the weed, we had like 20, 25 inches apart from the nymph to a spider, and like shaking the tip through the weed beds, and we were getting measures. And that's what
I mean, shake the tip of the weed.
I was just shaking the tip, so getting the spider to flicker.
All right.
Because it was pearl in it, it was flashing, and it seemed to get the fish. And we'd done that in practice. We'd done a little bit of it in practice. We were catching fish, so we stopped doing that and find something else. You know, so if we fall back on, and that's what I set up. I set a French leader up with a 3.5 mil on the point, and a size 14 black pearly spider.
There's 2 flies?
Yeah, 2 flies, yeah. And I was fishing the inside seam first, and I caught 2 fish pretty quickly. And then I come from there then because I didn't want to overfish it just in the second session because it was tough fishing, it wasn't easy. And I left it for a little bit, looked for another fish. It was nothing really going. So I come back, and where the pool would drop in, and you had about 3 foot of water in the end of the pool, there's like a washout, and it was like really thick ranunculus, just thick lines, and there was like little channels, and I seen this one channel, and it just looked like it stopped. So I thought, I'll chuck the bugs in there and just shake a tip. I chucked the bugs in, I turned the rod to the side, I was bringing it through just a little bit faster than the current, and I was just shaking the tip.
So what sort of distance were you fishing?
I was fishing about
20 foot?
Yeah, about 20 foot, yeah. Just because I didn't want to go too far into the pool. But I fished a French leader. I had a 15-metre Daiku leader. So I was pretty far away, so I weren't disturbing the fish in the weed. And it stopped, but I felt it through the rod. It thump. You know, sometimes you have a salmon and then you feel him on worms or whatever, you thump. It just thudded. And I struck, and as I struck and I draw the line just come towards me slow, just come straight at me. And my controller was behind me. I went, oh no. And he was like, what's the matter? As I was saying, what's the matter? The line went slack in my hand and the fish was just above my head, just completely, just water spray everywhere. And this trout was just flicking through the air. And I was like,
I didn't see that very often.
No, yeah, that's what confused the hell out of me. I thought, because I was like, that's a brownie. And I shouted, that's a brownie. And as the fish hit the bottom, and I went, that's a brownie. And I was expecting a sea trout, because we were catching sea trout up, and some of the boys hooked some big fish we never got to see, and we thought they were big sea trout. And but as it turned in the air and flicked, and the water spray, and it was like slow motion in my head. And I was like, this is a fish, this is insane. So I dropped the rod, And then it just went crazy, and it just, the power.
What leader you had on?
I had the Anek 3.5 fluorocarbon on. Yeah, it was nothing.
And with the dropper as well?
On the dropper, yeah.
Which one did you take?
He took the dropper on the Spider, but I didn't know it took the dropper until I got a little bit closer. And I was like, oh my God, and I was like, I said, this is going to end in tears, and that's something that Paul Jenkins says. When you hook a good fish, and I've been with him a few times, we've hooked some really big fish, and he goes, this is going to end in tears. And he just laughs. And normally he does. You on a river.
Expect it.
Yeah. And I was
especially with a weed bed next to it.
Yeah, there was just thick, it was like a chalk stream, thick, like beds and beds and beds of weed. And he like kind of tail flicked out again, dropped the rod, and then he went under the weed, and I was like, I'm going to lose this fish. But I thought, right, okay, the best thing I could do is keep the nymphs away from the weed. I shoved the tip of the rod in the water. I had the handle like he was holding a dagger. And I pressed the rod, the tip right into the riverbed, and I bent it down. And I put the line through my little finger, and I thought, he's under the weed, he's safe. He thinks he's safe.
Oh, I see, you wanted him under.
Yeah, so I wanted to keep all the gear right on the riverbed, because the weed is... And because it was like thick weed coming out. It was like rafts. So under there, it was clear. So in my head, thinking quickly, I was like, get him clear of it all. So what I started doing, he started to slow up, and I thought, he thinks he's safe under there. He weren't too bothered. So I was inching in him at the time. It felt like it was forever, but it was seconds. So I kept on just pulling the line inch by inch, until I got him out. And I kind of like and as soon as he see me, out he came, whoosh. Jumped again. Jumped 4 times he did. And my controller was like, I can't do anything with it.
Your net is no good, that's it.
Lucky I had my Snowbie net, my big net, and it had got an extendable handle on it. It would have been a nightmare if I didn't have that. Lucky I like a big net because it can quickly. And so I was like, kept on turning him, and then the one time I turned him and he come out from a weed, I seen him flare his gills. I went, this fish is knackered. He's stumbling. I was like, I got you. And I was like pulling the line. I turned the rod. He come down the side of the weed on me. As he was turning, I seen him, his gills go again. I thought, right, take him down into the shallow water. So he was on top of the little weed and amongst the stones. And I seen him flounder. And then I turned him, I brought him in, and I managed to like dive forward and scoop him. As soon as I scooped the fish, I looked in the net. And I just looked in and I just looked up. I went, oh my God. I said, thank you. I did. And wow. I picked it up, and it was like in my Snowbie net. It was coming out. It was up like this. There's a picture on Facebook of the fish. And my net now has got a bend in it.
Oh, I'd keep it like that.
Yeah, that's what I've left it. It's bent where I held it. Yeah, so I kept him in the water, brought him over, and the head controller was there. And he said, that's the biggest trout I've ever seen, he said. And the controller was like, how the hell did you get that? How do you land that fish? I said, I have no idea. And we took the pictures, and I was still in my session, and I was like, right. We measured it. It was too big for the trough, so I got measurements on my rod. So he put the fish in the trough, and it was out about an inch and a half out of the trough. So he used the measurement of the rod, and the controller and another guy verified it. The two of them took photos, and he said it was 73.3 centimetres.
Wow.
And I was looking at it. I put him in the water, and I spent about 5 minutes with the fish. I was making sure he was all right. I was like, and then he was like, he took a little bit of time, but then I was just standing there, and the head controller come down, and he's like, yeah, he's all right, and he was right beside me, and he just started to kick, and I watched him go out to the pool, around, and he went down river and turned and sat in the pocket, and then you just seen him go away.
Wow.
I took the fly off, and I threw it into the river, and I said, thank you very much. I took the fly off I caught it on, and I sacrificed it to the fish gods. I said, thank you very much. And I did. And
I think I'd have had it in the frame.
Yeah, I just checked it. I was like, thank you. And I put it where he was, and I was like, thank you. And for the rest of the session, I was shaking too much to fish.
Yeah, you can't come down, I guess.
Nah, and I think it was 3 fish I had then, and then I heard that the Scots boys had some, and a couple of people, so I thought, right, I go back in, and I caught 4 fish, and I think I had 2 in the second session, or something like that it was. But I was still
the competition is on the length,
Yeah, it's
the total length. So your fish would have been bigger than sort of 4 or 5 maybe, are they?
yeah, but
3 or
it just
4.
still classes as one fish. I'd rather have 4 21 centimetre fish than one big one.
It still classes as the one. It's not just
Yeah,
the total
you have
length
a
of
you
your
have a
bag.
point for it. I think it's 20 centimetres a minimum, and then a point for every centimetres over. So if it was a tie, that would come into play then.
Ah, right.
So that's why you really don't want to catch big fish in a
Yeah.
competition. You want small fish, get them in quick, keep your time.
Ah, right.
And that.
But that's not going to happen again, is it?
No, I don't think so.
It's
It was crazy because I fished my first full international I done. I fished. It was on the Taff up in Merthyr, and I held the record. Then I think it was I caught a 60. I think it was 63.4, 64.3 brownie then.
in Merthyr.
In Merthyr, yeah, in the international, and I held that till I broke it. So
Wow.
I held and I broke this, and I don't think.
You got to go.
Yeah,
break it again.
I'll
no?
take some doing. And fair play, the Scottish boys are amazing. They were like, he said, they were all saying like to hook a fish and land a fish like at NM circumstance, he said, is brilliant.
Yeah.
And
And on an international, you could have picked up at the time
yeah,
to do it as well.
yeah.
Like.
And it was really funny because I said to Bushy when we would walk in the day before, and I practice a bit, but I don't really I watch everyone and I go in between and I'm watching with fish and everything else. And I said to Bush, you watch now, I said. You watch me hook something, I like a big monster or something tomorrow, I said.
Yeah.
And he said to me, you don't want to hook big fish. I said, I know I don't want to hook big fish, but you'll happen. You watch. And it bloody happened.
Jeez. I saw the picture and I saw the picture of you holding a fish with the bridge behind on Facebook. And I didn't know which was bigger. The fish or you were smiling?
Oh, my smile.
It was more of a laugh than a smile.
It was a laugh. It was like a disbelief, like what the hell, like. And I say,
Yeah.
I think every picture I got is me like just like grinning like a Cheshire cat because I was like,
and it was a nice fish as well. Sometimes you get big fish, which they may be lean,
yeah,
or they're ugly looking fish, but that was like
this
prime.
thing was, and it was an N as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, I watched that fish go away, and I thought, that's something I'll cherish for the rest of my life. Before I caught that fish, before any international or any competition, as my time comes down to 10 minutes before I start, I'll go to the riverbank, I'll get on my knees, and I'll always rub my hands in the mud or the silt that's in the river. I always do it. I've done it since I've ever international fished. I rub my hands in the silt, and I'll wash my hands off. I know it sounds bonkers, but it's just my little thing. We all got our own little things, don't we?
Yeah.
And that day, I said, and I'll tell you a different story on top of it now. And I said to the fish gods, I said, just show me your secrets, and I'll take the utmost respect for what you show me. And this is God's honest truth. For my children's like, this is what I said, and that happened.
Wow.
And my friend Nick Steedman, he'll verify this. He fishes. He's on a lock in Ireland. They got a house by the lock. I'm not sure what lock it was. And I said to him, he said, "Oh, it's been really hard fishing." I said, "Do me a favour." I said, "Put your hands in the water." I said, "Before you start fishing," I said, and ask him to release your secrets, and you will take care of you'll utmost respect for what you see. That evening, I can show you the text. He texted me. He said, "I love you, buddy." He said, he's English. He said, "I caught a 6-pound brownie." He said, "It's the biggest one I've had off his lake."
Wow.
And I'll show you the text. And he said, "I can't believe it."
Yeah, I think there's more to it than you think. Like,
Kingfisher.
You know? Really?
Yeah, you heard him?
Well, that's a good use, eh?
Yeah.
I heard it. Do you know what? I think to myself, I have put so much. I heard him again there.
Yeah, he's there.
I've been so many times, like I had an obsession with the Ferox. I still have.
Yeah, I don't
And
blame
then
him. Jeez.
it really grips you, right? And then it's almost as if I put so much time into it, right? Every hour,
Becomes
from
spiritual.
8 o'clock in the morning. So I've been 4 o'clock sometimes till 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
3 weeks religiously every day
Yeah.
doing it, right? And you're on your own, you're doing that, whether it's wind, rain, sun, whatever. And then I think to myself, the gods must think,
Give him a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and nothing to stop me. I've lost big fish. It's broke me.
Yeah.
But I go back, back. And I firmly believe the lake gives what it wants, when it wants, to who it wants.
Yeah.
You know?
I think myself, I'm quite a spiritualist person, in touch with this kind of thing, and it's something that I've done since I've fished, and I've always taken as much respect as I can, give as much respect to everything I do, and the fish, and I think you're rewarded for it.
Yeah.
There was the Scottish controller. He's a lovely guy, and he said, "Do you mind if I film him?" I said, "No." I said, "Carry on."
Doing it?
Yeah, he did, and he filmed me doing it. And,
wow.
He was a lovely guy, and I gave him a box of flies at the end.
I'm going to try that.
Try it. Serious. I know it sounds silly. People think, "Oh, bloody mad," but people got
it
their
puts your mind right.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It focused me.
Yeah.
It focused me because I slowly wash my hands in the mud and the silt, and then I'll like purify it, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm
puts
just
you there.
Yeah, it puts me in a little. I'm happy, and if I've done it, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And like people got their lucky socks, pants, a watch, a wrist, a teddy bear. That's my thing. Like.
Yeah.
And I've always done it since every trial, every international. That's what I do. And
I'll get a photograph of you doing that by you.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird. I only do it. And that day I done it because the guy was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I just a mark of respect for the river."
Yeah, yeah. So how did you? Obviously the biggest fish, the competition. So how did the team come?
We come second. We had silver, and there was 3 points in it.
3 points.
3 points.
So that could have been a centimetre.
Yeah, I think a centimetre fish.
2 centimetres.
If we all caught another fish or something, I think it was really. But everyone was close. All the point system was really, really close.
Was it?
It was. If you look at the match results, it wasn't much in it really. We pushed Scotland. They had their asses going for a little bit. They did.
Yeah.
And
So-
it was brilliant because we were in the hotel room, and the Scots were on. Their rooms are off ours, like on a corridor, and me and Rob were just sorting our suits out, and all of a sudden you could just hear eruption, and I could just. They knew they had gold, and the sound out there, it was like, well done boys, well done, and it was like you're proud for them. Because it's a massive achievement. It's a massive, and in my eyes, it was we had a victory because we pushed them to the wire.
Yeah.
It was
on their home water as
yeah,
well.
Yeah, we're all favourite on our own water, aren't we?
Yeah.
But it was.
You're saying you done practice. I guess you know the methods, the techniques.
Yeah.
That you fished other waters and you know they're going to work, and it's just. I guess you knew where you were going to fish before you actually.
Yeah.
On the day. Well, it's over 2 days or 1 day.
1 day it was. Yeah, we have like a week, and we're in the hotel on the third, 3 days before the international hotel. So through the week, normally we go up for like a month before, bit of practice, bit of fishing, get your confidence, go through whatever you need to do, and everyone got their own patterns of work, but it's all shared. So. Like say orange or white or something silly, but then like through practice you don't really practice as such.
Yeah.
You just go, the water changes. If it goes up or down, you just learn. Try this, try that, try this.
Yeah.
And
Did you replace that fly with the same pattern?
Yeah, I put it on. Yeah, I put it straight back on, and it's a size 14. It's got a mylar body, pulse stretch, so it's got that greeny blue tinge to it, a black rib and a black hackle, and it's simple.
Tied yourself?
Yeah.
You tie all your flies yourself?
Yeah. That pattern, I think Sean Watkins, anything with purling, Sean Watkins had that pattern off a friend, and it worked a treat for us. It did. And it was good.
Do you find you catch those flies in all places? Like you fish it here?
Like when I first started, I never knew about the French leader. I never knew about bungs. I never knew. That's all I would do. I have a teal blue and silver, and I'd have a grub, and I'd swing them through the pools.
Yeah.
And I catch loads of fish, and then I bumped into the likes of Paul Jenkins, Kieran Jenkins, and then I started fishing with them, and then I started to learn a lot quickly.
Is it just the rivers you do?
Yeah, rivers, yeah.
You don't do lakes?
No, I fished the lakes a few times, but in the river always since I was a kid.
Yeah.
My brothers and my uncles would fish small waters and stuff, but I just never felt, even when I was then, I didn't feel comfortable with flat water like that, like ponds.
Yeah.
The
Moving
river,
water.
when I was a kid,
It changes, doesn't it?
yeah. When I was a kid, my nickname was Bomble. They called me, right?
Bomble.
Because you know we call them bombleheads when we were kids. Were bombleheads, but the bullheads.
Oh yeah.
Because I was in the river more than I was on land when I was a kid.
Catching those?
Yeah, catching fish, trout, tickling trout, and down the river fishing, and I'd be.
You're saying about tickling trout.
Yeah.
We touched on it briefly. I thought that was a myth because as soon as you see a fish, for instance, now if you saw a fish there now, as soon as we moved, it'd be off.
Yeah. Well, what would as a poacher now? No, actually, they say they make the best.
I know. I bet you've had a few.
Yeah, and well, when I was a kid, my brother, and my uncles and stuff, would be fishing, trotting worms through the pools and salmon and sea trout and stuff. And then my brother, he showed me when I must have been about 6. So the salmon and sea trout used to come up the river, the Dimbath it was called.
Was that with Gilbert way?
Yeah, on the back end, a black bill.
All right,
through the Fox now. Through. It used to be, it's not so much now. But he used to show me as a kid, he'd part the leaves, all the leaves would be down, and he'd be in a pool, part the leaves, and you'd just see tails, again, the heads would be under the bank. And you just...
under the bank?
Yeah, under the bank. You put your hand under, and you just slowly put it, not grab it, not grip it, because he would shoot off, but you just hold him, and as long as you braced him, you could hold him, and you could take him out, and he'd show me and put it back. I was a kid, and like with trout then, when I was a kid, you'd be learning, you'd be under the boulders, and you'd like trap trout under the boulders with your hands, and catch them, and when I was a kid, you'd eat them, or whatever, and that's where I was, that's my first...
Is it?
Yeah.
So when did you actually cast your first fly then?
Probably I was about 8, 9.
Was it as early
Yeah,
as that?
yeah. But I didn't understand it really. My uncle he'd give me he'd tie like little ginger quills.
Yeah.
And he'd give me a rod, like a 5 weight, with a line, and he said he was learning me on the grass outside the house, just cast it into the pockets of water. He just cast, and I used to catch little trout on the river where I'm from, and I'd catch them on the little ginger quills, and that was my first introduction to fly fishing. Wow. And I went on the lakes, but I just wanted to be on the river.
Yeah, I can see the attraction on the rivers, man. Like now, when I'm talking to you now, over your shoulder, there's fish rising there now.
Yeah.
And it is, sort of, it's moving,
loads.
it's alive. Huh?
There's loads of rising.
I know.
Look at that lot.
Yeah. It is, but I think the edge for me, I like just walking a bank on a big lake in a res, or drifting,
Yeah.
I think you've got to be, to be a successful river angler, you've got to get used to losing a lot of flies.
Oh, yeah.
On the trees, the branches, the rocks stuck underneath.
I probably got about 100 grand invested in a taff. There's probably 100 grand's worth of tungsten stuck in there somewhere.
Jesus, yeah, I can imagine. I went, beginning the season, opening day was actually, with Sean Thomas.
Yeah.
And he was saying, he was like,
snap it off. Yeah, break it off.
Tiny one, turn around, and I thought, Jesus.
Go in and get it. No,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
you disturb the water, just click him off.
But that's like, where we were fishing there, it was like Nam.
Yeah.
Going through,
Going through,
walking just without anything, holding a thing coming through is bad enough. When you've got a fly rod, right, and you've got a landing net on your back, everything seems to get stuck in it. Like.
Yeah. In a competition, you look for a gap and you go for it, and our rods, you're like knitting, you are trying to get through without scaving, getting tangled up.
Yeah. So how did you actually get into the competition? See?
Paul Jenkins. I was fishing.
You joined the club, did you?
And I was in Ospreys. I bought a river ticket for Ospreys. Was it? I'd say maybe 14 years ago. I didn't know where my arse, my elbow is on the river, fishing, and I was catching grayling. And my first ever grayling I caught was on a red.
Tag.
No, it was a bloodworm, a buzzer. On above the old bridge, and I had a fish pimp on, Because I had my eyes, I had a really bad condition. I couldn't see very well.
All right.
And I had a big orange pimp on, and it was in winter, and I was catching grayling on buzzers.
Really?
I didn't know nothing. I never caught a grayling
They're like
before.
red, don't they?
Yeah, it was red, and they were gold, and I had them off my uncle. He said, try them. I didn't tie flies. I didn't know nothing. Was it 15 years ago? I didn't know. I didn't know nothing, and I bumped into who's a really good friend now, close friend, Ron Jones. Amazing guy, amazing angler.
Yeah.
And he was showing me how to fish the dry fly.
Yeah.
And he had to put bigger and bigger flies because I couldn't see. And he was explaining drift to me, and he could see I was eager, I wanted to learn. And I had these bloody big milk bottle glasses, and he persevered with me for a day. And I only met, and the first time I met him, he was landing.
Fishing dry flies, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first time I met him, I walked up into the park, and he was landing a fish. So I thought, oh, I'm going to have a look at it. And I believe our fish was either £5.11 or £5.12.
Wow.
A big brownie, and I took a picture for him. And
where was this, son?
that was down in
On the
Ponty.
Taff?
Yeah, on the Taff.
Oh, yeah.
And I took a picture for him, and that's when we struck our friendship up. And we've been well, he's a very good friend of mine now, and he taught me so much, and fly patterns, and we always talk all the time. So I started fishing. I was fishing the dries through the ranunculus beds down in Ponty, and then I started looking on YouTube. I was watching John Tysack. I was watching all his River Academy. I was Owl Morgan. I was watching all his videos. I never knew any of it. And so I'd go and buy something, try it, watch a video. I'd be on the river, like watching a video right there, see what John was doing, and I'd be like, right there, I'll try it. And then I started catching a few fish. And Paul Jenkins, I used to post on the fly fishing forum on the internet. And Paul Jenkins said to me, he said, where are you catching all these grayling? Because I was catching really big grayling. And one day he come down then, and I met him. He said, you should trial. And then I met Kieran and Jonathan Bishop. And I was like, I said, what do you do? He said, well, just trial, enter the trial. And I fished for a while, and Kieran said, try it. He gave me a scraggly old French leader. He said, do this. And then to me, it clicked in, worming.
Yeah.
I was used to trotting worms. I've trotted worms since I was little. And it was like trotting a worm. I was like, he said, put this on. And I started hitting fish. And it would just become natural. I was like, this is just trotting worms. And I was feeling them, I was catching and hooking fish. But she said, try the trials. He said, I'll take you up. And the trial was on the River Dee in Llangollen. And there was probably like 26, 27 people then trialling.
What time of year was that?
That was, I'm not sure. I know trout and grayling counted. So it must have been later on. And I was
known for grayling water, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. I was catching trout because I never really caught grayling as such, and it was different, isn't it? So I was just fishing the French leader in the edges, all the grayling in the middle of the river on dries and stuff. I didn't know, but I kept on and on it, and I think my first trial I come 7th, and I just missed out on the place, and I was gutted. But she said, Tez, your first trial, you done really well. Like.
Yeah.
But then I think it was Andrew Roynan, he couldn't go, so I fell into reserve.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I went to Scotland on a tay with them, and then we ended up winning gold.
Wow.
So it was my first international, I was reserve, but we won gold.
You never look back.
Never look back.
How many caps have you had now?
10, something
Really?
like 10, 11, something
There's an
like that.
international every year still, is it?
Yeah, yeah. They're all bar since the COVID,
lockdown, yeah.
3 years. I still got the trials shield from the last trial on the D where I won that.
Have you been captain?
Yeah, I've been captain. I captain. Where I captain to? I'm trying to think. I think we had gold. I think I was a captain. Yeah. On a Taff. Was it Taff?
River, is it?
Or the Airbu? I can't really think.
Do you know what? I fished the.
I can't think which one it was.
It was the Airbu, I think I fished with
Sean.
Sean, yeah, and it was a stretch, yeah. Aberbeegwy. That's it, Abu, was it?
Yeah.
And do you know what? It was like, you can imagine March 1st. Or March 1st it was, I think. Open day anyway. And the water was quite high and it was cold.
Yeah.
But do you know one thing I noticed though? When we were walking up, there was two ways. You could either go all the way around this one stretch, like up this mountain practically all the way around,
Yeah.
or walk down the river, right?
Yeah.
And it was big bouldery. And all of a sudden I said, look at these bricks here. And there were bricks, house bricks, right?
Yeah.
With Aberbeeg actually in the bricks.
Yes.
And he said, you probably get a $5 each for those, he said. Do you know what? There's a couple of thousand there, right? Hidden in the undergrowth of the nettles and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, Jesus, I could make money, just go and do it.
Just go and take a brick a day.
But it would take forever, That's why they're still there. Because no one else is going to go and
they
get
sought
them.
after, they.
Yeah.
Well,
They could even put the odd one in a wall, just with a name, Aberbeeg.
People buy them.
Yeah. But the idea was that we'll go back in the summer, but we never did.
No, I know. We all got plans, and he's like, oh, that'd be a good idea.
Know,
Yeah.
So, have we got any goals now?
The trial has been, I think it's trial at the end of this month. I'm hoping to get in because it's back home. So, fingers crossed, I don't know. I'm not, I think, I've been doing it 2 minutes compared to some people, but I think I'd be happy with what I've accomplished. And I'd be happy just to pleasure fish after this one if I get in.
I guess one of the main goal you want is not to catch COVID again.
Yeah, I know. Four times. Hospital twice. And I'm just getting over the last bout from last week before. I'm all right. I'm testing negative, but it's just on my chest. That's why my voice is a bit awesome.
Yeah. One thing I know we've both got an interest in is photography. And I guess through lockdown, that's when I started seeing some of your pictures. You doing stuff at your home in the garden. You built a pond and a hide and stuff like that, isn't it?
That was to keep, because I couldn't go far because the COVID damaged my lungs and my heart. I didn't have the breath to do anything really for months and months and months. And my neighbour, so I had a camera set up and stuff, and I thought I'm gonna.
So you always had an interest in photography.
Yeah. I'm never really good at it, but I just thought I enjoyed it. And I thought I'd just stick with it. Bought a new lens, bought some bits and bobs, watched a lot of YouTube, and then I thought I'll make a hide in the garden. So I bought an hide. I put a reflection pool in the garden. My next door neighbour helped me, most of it. Bob Fox, brilliant, fair play to him. And I put lots of feeders up and I started photographing. And then I went from there then to photograph the kingfishers on the river, foxes, and I just enjoyed it ever since.
You put a lot of time into it, haven't you?
Yeah.
Do you find sometimes when you come, say for instance we fish in here now, well you said actually, you passed this one spot and you said there are kingfishers in this one spot.
Yeah.
Do you find sometimes when you're fishing you're thinking, I should be taking a picture there now?
I just log everything. I look at the time, I look at the time where the sun is, where the shadows are,
There's a pattern they follow, is
Yeah. They down on the bottom, in the morning, you're on the left-hand side of the river where the sun is, and then in the afternoon they move out of that and they go onto the other side of the bank. And that's what I've noticed, and there's a few spots, and I've made like little hides, places where people can't see, so I can just tuck in, not disturb them, they don't see me, I don't interrupt them in anything, and I just sit there and photograph them quietly. At the moment, because the river's so low, all the minnows are pushed into the sides, and there's literally millions of them. And the kingfishers, they got young at the moment, probably the second brood. And I sat there down here with Charles Jardine on the weekend.
He was up here this week with him?
Yeah, he come up and we were chatting and talking, and he's become a member for Ospreys now. So it's brilliant. It's great to have Charles in the club. It's brilliant for us. Yeah. And I was explaining to him, and as I was explaining, the kingfishers were coming in and landing on the stones.
No.
And the young were there and the parents, and they just taking this. They can't miss. But they were on low stones, so they were just dropping in and grabbing them, and then they'd have a little fight and go off. And half hour later they come back. So there's a pattern. So I probably, if I was thinking about doing on a weekend, is sitting down there quietly first light, because the sun will come over early, and just lay there in the stones with a net.
You set up a net, you want to hide?
No, I'll just lay on the grass and by the pea shooters, the knotweed, and just sit there until they come. I get lost, but I was brought up fishing and shooting, so that I got that patience. I've been taught from a young age, patience, and it
And the
never
more you
le-
do, the more patience you get, I think.
Yeah. I could sit by her all day until dark. And, and my partner says, I have no idea how you do it. She said, because everything else, I'm erratic. But when I'm at the river or I'm doing something, time just
Your
goes...
mind is a strange thing. I know when I go to Corrib, when I'm fishing for the Ferox, I know there'll be days nothing will happen.
Yeah.
I know nothing will happen. And each time I go, say, for instance, I'll go for like 2 or 3 weeks. I just come back now, for a month, 3.5 weeks I was there. And then I find it takes 3 days for me to get in my zone, like a psyche.
Settle.
Right? Everything, your whole metabolism, everything. You know, you're on a boat. The first day, you're a little bit clumsy, you're doing this and that, you're not relaxed.
Yeah.
But the third day, you're horizontal.
Yeah.
And you're almost in tune with everything then. And then it'll take a couple of days and then you start having fish. You know, by the time it goes then, and it could be like a whole day.
Yeah.
And it
It's
goes.
like, where do you go?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just immerse yourself and you're gone.
But what I find is when I'm doing that is like I say, that metabolism is really slow.
Yeah.
And then you could go for like 3 days, and those rods won't move, right?
Yeah.
And when that rod goes, right, you're sort of like, your chemistry inside is fireworks, right?
Yeah. Like,
And it's like, and it's like, that's the buzz, that's the adrenaline.
Yeah.
And if you were doing it all the time, a fish a day, you wouldn't be the same.
No.
But because you know you're trying these different things, you're consistently trying different methods and that, and when it comes about, it's like, yes. Oh, when it comes off, it goes, you're up there, and then you're down then, you know. It happens.
Yeah.
But it just keeps, you just can't
It's
get enough of
hard.
it.
It's hard to explain to someone the fishing, they're fishing, but when you've got that feeling and everything is right and you've got that, like it comes from in your core, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you're alive, you know. You're beyond alive, you know. And it's that feeling, and like you've got the goosebumps, and you can't explain that to someone, can you?
Yeah.
Until until.
And simple things like you could be here now, and all of a sudden you see the odd fly coming hatching off, and you think starting.
Yeah.
And you see another one coming off, and you see, you know what is going to happen.
Yeah. And now, and then you see that big mouth, or you see that swirl, and you're like.
I tell you what I do notice in May time in Ireland, you probably get them, you're bright yellow.
Yellow maize?
Yellow maize, I think they are. People call them yellow sallies, I think yellow sallies, but yellow maize. And when they're on the water, right, you see them flying in the air, and then I've literally watched trout chase to try and get the fly before the birds, and the birds will come down and take it off, you know.
You see the sand martins on you, and if it's quiet and they come off, you hear the click of the beak.
Can you?
Click
Can you take the fly?
they take the fly, click. Can you hear it? And it's like, wow, you can hear them click, and you're catching the fly.
Yeah.
That's why on the river, normally the robins or the wagtails and the pied wagtails are on the side, and they normally tell you when the hatches are going to start, because all of a sudden you see them come to the edge of the water, and you're like, oh, come on, let's have it this week.
So for the next couple of weeks then, what would you expect? What, you're sort of like fishing, you wouldn't waste time of day, would you, now, for hatches? You wait till last light?
Not now with this heat. It'd be either early morning or late afternoon morning, anything, and the evening rise for all the spinners. That's where I'd be fishing now. I'd be like 6 o'clock onwards, and maybe 8 o'clock.
I'm surprised you've seen quite a few fish, decent fish.
Yeah.
The last place we went, I think we've seen bigger fish than I've seen here.
Yeah, there's some big fish, because it's quite deep and there's a lot of deep water below, and I think because all their minnows are there, they come up in the evening and they smash your minnows in the night, because it's a food source to sit there. It's like McDonald's on the side of the road, isn't it?
Yeah, I can imagine,
My mother fishes, my father...
Does she?
Yeah, my mother used to fish. She's not very well at the moment now, but she loves fishing. My grandfather, my great-grandfather, it's deep-rooted in my family.
Is it?
Fishing. And Ogmore is where I had my first memories of being stuck in the sand in a pram, screaming my head off, because I knew they'd just give me a rod and there was nothing on it.
And you were in a pram then?
I was in a pram, I can remember it. And I told my mother, and she said, you're right. She said, you screamed your head off. Give me a rod, and I wasn't happy. I wanted to go...
Using nappies a drog.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I can remember, and I was a little bugger, and I used to scream and scream and scream. And I'd be happy. Give me a rod or something and sit there, I'd be happy. I wouldn't wander off. If you give me a rod, I was happy.
Do you fish with any of your family now?
Yeah, my brother.
Oh, your brother fishes?
Yeah, he still fishes. He's a phenomenal wormer.
Is he?
Yeah, he taught me when I was a kid. I used to be on his rucksack and his back, and he'd be, and I was a little bit sharp.
He's older than you, obviously.
Oh yeah, he's my older brother, and he used to throw the worms in, and he'd hook a trout. He'd go, have a go, and I'm like, no, I want to catch my own. And he's like, no, you caught it. I'm like, no. Like, no, I know. I'm gonna tell you a story, man. He will laugh his head off. I used to be a bugger when I was a kid. I'd run to the best spots up there in the pool, and the river in Blackmill was just probably about a foot high, and it was pushing through, but it was an old fence down in the river, and the strands of barbed wire.
Oh, yeah.
Me rushing, my brother was getting in, I tried to rush past him to get in front of him.
Oh.
My foot hit the wire, and I kind of spun around, right, and I went straight in the pool, upside down, looking at him, and he could have grabbed me and just picked his hands up, and as I'm passing him going in the pool, he was just smiling.
No.
In and out. And he went, are you going to rush around now, laughing his head off? And he didn't give a monkey's. I could have drowned, and he's still in there fishing. He's like, I tripped on the way. He said, I'll teach you for rushing around.
And how old was you then?
I must have been about 10, 11.
Is it?
Yeah.
Have you had any scary moments on the river, mate?
Yeah, I nearly got killed on a ronda about, 10 years ago. I was with Matthew Pritchard, my friend, and he was teaching me fishing, because he'd done a lot on the rivers, and he was showing me things. And we were on the ronda, and the river was up a fair bit.
Where in the ronda now?
Up in Treaford.
All right, yeah.
And his rod got stuck in a tree, and I was confident wading. I walked out on just above the edge of the pool. I walked out. I could feel the gravel and stones on my feet. Went out. He got stuck, so I come back, and I pulled his rod out of the tree because he was up on the bank. When I went to walk out, there's no bottom. So the gravel or whatever was there shifted, and I went under, and that's all I remember was grey and blue and all colours. And on the ronda there's a big sewerage pipe. It's probably like four.
Yeah, all the way down.
Yeah, all the way down. And it was on a bend, and he was taking me under the pipe. Oof. And Pritchard managed to run down the side, and he caught my hood.
Before you went under?
Before I went under, and I was getting pinned to the pipe, and he pulled me up by my hood. And it took me about a year to wade after that. And because I got out the river.
That is scary.
Yeah, he pulled me out to the river, and I was dead then, wasn't I? And he went, yeah. Because if I went under, he would have just pinned me under the pipe. Yeah. And there was no way out of there.
Jesus, that is a close
Yeah,
shot.
it was really, really close. And I had a couple of nightmares on that one.
I can imagine, yeah.
Because I remember hugging the pipe, going under. So I hit I rolled.
And I suppose it was nothing, because the forces that you couldn't go against.
Couldn't do nothing. No, it was just into a bend, and I was going in, and my feet, I had my feet against the pipe like this, and I was getting slipped under, and I remember just being crushed, being pushed under, and he just managed to grab my hood.
He hadn't come after you, right?
If I was on my own, I'd be dead. I wouldn't be here now.
Yeah. And his rod you went to get?
Yeah, he was stuck in the branch. He was.
Did you get the rod?
Yeah, he got the rod. And I went home after that straight away. I didn't want to fish anymore. I went home, and I was like,
oh, I can imagine. Yeah,
that
would shake her up.
I didn't tell my missus, didn't tell her anything.
The thing is with the valleys, you get some dangerous things happen. One of the dangerous things I heard happen was Alan Rees was fishing down in underneath the town, and his fish was sea trout at night. Someone threw a kebab at him.
I've had chips being chucked at me. I've had off Ponty Bridge. There was a bunch of drunks, and I was fishing in the evening for on the dries, and a guy actually threw a pile of chips at me. And I was like, I looked up, I said, you could have put salt and vinegar on them. He did, that's the God's honest truth. And I was like...
You wanted a fish to go with it,
probably. I did, and he hit me with them as well, like. I got smothered in chips. I was starving.
How you landing it?
Yeah, it was the truth, God's honest truth. Yeah. I was like, I've seen so many things on the river. Young lovers bumping into them when you're fishing, walking down. I was down the bottom where we were earlier on, and I'm fishing away with my back to the, and I was like, yeah, I could hear rustling, and I was like, what's happening here? I turned around, there's two young lovers on a boulder, and I turned around and looked, and I went, oh no, didn't give a monkeys.
They knew you were there.
Didn't give a monkeys.
Yeah, point to no return, probably.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, I think so. I bumped into a naked woman on the river. There was a photographer she was on the weir, no clothes on, and she was doing all these poses. And I walked past. I was like, "Hi, yeah." She went, "Hi, I love. Have a nice day." I was like,
just waiting for the rise.
I was like, I'm going this way.
I've seen a few. People think that
they don't think you did. Yeah, they do.
Especially when you got that net in over you a bit.
Oh yeah, I've seen some things. I seen there was a not young couple, but older couple having a massive argument. They were going hell for leather, screaming.
And you were all covered up.
Yeah, and it was like 10 feet away from me, and
No.
she was shouting and screaming, calling him everything, and he's been liking some pictures or something of a friend or whatever, and she was hammering him. And as she turned around, she seen me, and she went bright red, and the guy said, "Look what I got to deal with." I said, "Don't get me involved."
He's wondering what you're doing lying down there. He saw the
I had the
camera,
camera, yeah. She realised because she could see the thing, and she went bright red, run off, and this guy was like, he had his hands in his pockets. I said, "Don't get me involved, buddy." Don't get me involved. But I was on below my house. The river's in flood, and I seen this woman on the edge of the river on the bank, and it's deep. And I looked at her, and I thought there's something not right by her. She was going to commit suicide, and I helped her off the river.
Did you?
Yeah, it was a woman. There's places for hospices for women who've been beaten and stuff.
Where's this?
In Ponty up here.
Oh, right,
and she come from here, and she come from one of them places, and she was going to commit suicide. She was.
You went over to chat to her, like?
Yeah, I just walked over. I said, "You okay, love?" Yeah, she's just
Upset,
total
like.
broken.
Oh, right.
And I managed to coax her to hold my hand, and I sat there and I phoned the police, but I put it on loudspeaker, and I was just talking to her, but I was saying where we were, what was happening, and after about 10.
So she didn't know that you
Nah,
dialed?
she didn't know, and then the police car turned up, and
It's clever, good thinking.
yeah, and I was talking, and I managed to get her away from the river, because I think if that point she was, and then when the police came, she tried to jump. I held her and I dived on her then, and I was like, I walked from the river, and I was like, that was a bit of a fate thing. Yeah. And then I seen her about 3 months after, and she come and give me a hug. I didn't even see her in town.
Wow.
She come and give me a hug, and she said, "Thank you for that day." I'll never forget that. It was just one of them moments.
You think you got problems? I've been fishing this river.
Yeah.
3 weeks, not a fish.
Yeah, I know. I only catch them that big. Yeah, it's surprising,
So, it's come to this time now. There's one more question I want to ask, and I think I know the answer. You did mention, touched it briefly. So where would you want to be to make your last cast?
Ogmore Estuary, in the rock pool. That's where I'd be. I'd be on the stone slab with my grandfather, my mother, my father, my great-grandfather, my brother have sat me on a knee and showed me how to fish and talked about the birds and bees and everything. That's where I would want to be. That'd be my last cast. And I think that's where my mother will want her ashes.
Is that right?
She wants to be spreading on this time of the year. Mullet or flatties, or bass on the tide, little maddies, little rig, couple of shot, just throwing it up, trotting it back, and then throwing it down when the tide's moving, trotting it back up.
We've got to take some pictures now before the light goes.
Yeah, no.
Broken water, the waterfall up there would be nice.
Yeah, we got there now.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I really appreciate it.
Many
Thanks so much,
Ceri. I'll join you one night.
Oh, you're
for
very
an evening.
welcome. Anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime. You're only up there now.
Yeah, that's right. I'm only literally 15 minutes away.
Yeah, bloody hell. Anytime.
I think I'll bring my bag of chips instead of wait for someone to throw them.
yeah, I know. Lots of salt and vinegar, please.
Yeah.
If you've enjoyed this podcast and want to listen to more, please consider becoming a Patreon, where you will get over 90 past episodes and weekly podcasts, plus photography and exclusive content. To join, visit patreon.com/casting with Ceri Jones, or see the link on my website, castingwithcerijones.com. Well, that's all for now. Tight lines and don't strike too soon.